Skinny Hardaway Southern T back with another EP. Y'all smash that like button for your boy when you roll on. Man, we here for a good time, not a long time. We here with the fight breakdown and prediction between Jerry Anderson and Charles Martin this weekend. This is a hometown fight for your boy Jerry Anderson. So Jerry Anderson got a lot riding on this fight this weekend. He's having a hometown fight, his first hometown fight, right? His first headline in his hometown. Is going to be against his toughest opponent to date. He's taking on proven veteran Charles Martin, former champion Charles Martin. Let me put some respect on Charles Martin's name. This gonna be a step up fight for Jerry Anderson. So I'm expecting him, to bring his A game. I'm expecting Charles Martin to bring his A game as well. Charles Martin's, I'm not sure if it was his last fight, right? But his fight with Luis Ortiz, Charles Martin, he impressed me. I expected him to fare a lot worse than he did. I expected him to fare a lot worse than he did in that fight with Luis Ortiz. He ended up getting some knockdowns on Luis Ortiz. In that fight, making that fight real interesting. Luis Ortiz did eventually stop Charles Martin, which led to his victory. But I was fairly impressed with Charles Martin in that Luis Ortiz fight. If I'm not mistaken, he did have one fight after that. Wasn't against a huge name or nothing like that. But he did have one fight after that. But he's got his hands full with Jerry Anderson this week, just like Jerry Anderson got his hands full with Charles Martin. They both are up against a difficult task for different reasons, right? You got Charles Martin, who's the older fighter, former champion, looking to get back up, to his glory days and what he's doing. And then you got the younger guy in Jerry Anderson, right, who's trying to prove himself, and he's going up against Charles Martin, the crafty veteran. It's not going to make it easy for him. You know what I mean? But I ain't gonna hold up too much, y'all. Let's go on, get into this. Let me pull up these box recs. We got Jerry Anderson versus Charles Martin. Jerry Big Baby Anderson is 14-0 with 14 KOs, 23 years old, 6'4", with a 78-inch arm reach. His last fight was against George Aries, which he stopped in the third. Fight before that was against Jerry Ford, which he stopped in the second. And then you got a bunch of guys that y'all probably never heard of, but he do got a Kingsley eBay knockout in there, 6 out of 6. You know what I mean? Jerry Anderson, as you see, 14-0, very young career. Not the biggest, names on his resume just yet, but this weekend he fights Charles Martin. And Charles Martin could most definitely, fill that void of credible opponent and big name. We got Charles Martin, 29 and 3 losses, 26 KOs himself. Been stopped twice with one draw. He's 6'5" with an 80-inch arm reach. So Charles Martin is the bigger fighter of the two between Charles Martin and I almost called him George Everett. Between Charles Martin and Jerry Anderson, Charles Martin is 37 years old. He has a 2.5 reach advantage, and he has 2 inches in Jerry Anderson in height. His last fight was a knockout win versus Devin Vargas, and he got stopped by Luis Ortiz. Before that, he stopped Gerald Washington in the fight before Luis Ortiz. So you got Charles Martin, who's 3-1 in his last fights, and you got Jerry Anderson, who's undefeated. Charles Martin fared well against Luis Ortiz in that fight up until he got caught. You know what I mean? If Charles Martin is able to stay on his back foot, avoid that big shot from Jerry Anderson, I do give Charles Martin a shot to win this fight. I know a lot of people, count Charles Martin out of this, but I see enough flaws in Big Baby's game, right? Enough flaws in his defense, enough flaws in his offensive attack, right? Enough flaws in his head movement, where he very well has to be on his A game in this fight with Charles Martin, or he could take an L, right? Big Baby is at the point in his career now where he kind of just he likes to power through guys, right? He's not necessarily depending on his skill, but more so his will and his power. And if you can't land that big shot against a guy like Charles Martin, who is a mover, he is a mover. He got hurt versus Luis Ortiz because, he started to actually compile his own offense, and it looked like for a second he may have stopped Luis Ortiz. And he was chasing that knockout, and he ended up getting caught. You know what I mean? If Charles Martin could stay patient, stay on his back foot and box, he very well could beat Jerry Anderson. We all know Jerry. Like I said, Jerry Anderson likes to power down and power through, and that works. That has worked so far. You know what I mean? But a crafty guy like Charles Martin, I would rather him be, a little more educated, a little more methodical in his approach in getting this knockout versus Charles Martin. You know what I mean? In this fight, I'm going Jerry Anderson by knockout, but I do think it's gonna be a closer fight than people think. I do think he gonna struggle heavily early with Charles Martin movement and his boxing ability before in the end just being able to, kind of power through and get the knockout on Charles Martin. But I do see a scenario where Charles Martin could very well outbox Jerry Anderson. But I got Jerry Anderson, TKO stoppage. I'm gonna go Jerry Anderson, TKO stoppage, ninth round. I think Jerry Anderson gonna have to get past the boxing ability, the craftiness, and head movement, the defense of Charles Martin and the jab. I think he gonna give him some trouble, but eventually he'll be able to get Charles Martin up out of there. Jerry Anderson, TKO victory, seventh round. Skin Hardaway 17. This ain't the past, this ain't the future, but just the present. That's how we rocking, and I'm out. Look.